Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for June the 14th. Today we are reading together in Joshua chapter 9. Joshua chapter 9, which is going to tell us the story of the Israelites' interaction with the Gibeonites. Some deception is afoot here within this chapter. We're going to see how all of it plays out today in our reading. Thanks so much for taking the time to read along with me today. Let me get the text up on the screen and we'll get to working through it. Joshua chapter 9 and verse number 1. Joshua 9, verse number 1. When all the kings heard about Jericho and Ai, those who were west of the Jordan in the hill country, in the Judean foothills, and all along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea toward Lebanon, the Hethites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, they formed a unified alliance to fight against Joshua and Israel. When the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they acted deceptively. They gathered provisions and took out worn out sacks of their clothes and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They wore old patched sandals on their feet and threadbare clothing on their bodies. Their entire provision of bread was dry and crumbly. They went to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal and said to him and the men of Israel, "We have come from a distant land. Please make a treaty with us." The men of Israel replied to the Hivites, "Perhaps you live among us. How can we make a treaty with you?" They said to Joshua, "We are your servants." Then Joshua asked them, "Who are you and where do you come from?" They replied to him, "Your servants have come from a faraway land because of the reputation of Yahweh your God. For we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two Amorite kings beyond the Jordan, King Sihon of Heshbon and King Og of Bashan, who was in Ashtaroth. So their elders and all the inhabitants of the city of our land told us, so our elders and all the inhabitants of the land told us, take provisions with you for the journey, go and meet them and say, we are your servants. Please make a treaty with us. This bread of ours was warm when we took it from our houses as food on the day we left to come to you. But see, it is now dry and crumbly. These wineskins were new when we filled them, but see, they are cracked. And these clothes and sandals of ours are worn out from the extremely long journey. Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but did not seek Yahweh's decision. So Joshua established peace with them and made a treaty to let them live. And the leaders of the community swore an oath to them. Verse 16, 3 days after making the treaty with them, they heard that the Gibeonites were their neighbors, living among them. So the Israelites set out and reached the Gibeonite cities on the third day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them because the leaders of the community had sworn oath to them by Yahweh, the God of Israel. Then the whole community grumbled against the leaders. All the leaders answered them, "We have sworn an oath to them by Yahweh, the God of Israel, and now we cannot touch them. This is how we will treat them. We will let them live so that no wrath will fall on us because of the oath we swore to them." They also said, "Let them live." So the Gibeonites became woodcutters and water carriers for the whole community, as the leaders had promised them. Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said to them, "Why did you deceive us by telling us you live far away from us, when in fact you live among us? Therefore you are cursed and will always be slaves, woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God." The Gibeonites answered him, "It was clearly communicated to you, or to your servants, that Yahweh your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land before you. We greatly feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. Now we are in your hands. Do to us whatever you think is right." And this is what Joshua did to them. He rescued them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. On that day, he made them woodcutters and water carriers, as they are today, for the community and for Yahweh's altar at the place he would choose. And that is Joshua chapter 9. As they are making their way through the lands, as they are continuing the conquest, remember they have worked their way up to on the eastern side of the Jordan. They have crossed over the Jordan, and they have now arrived. They've gotten past Jericho. Actually, I could probably pull up a map here that might give us a little bit of detail. Let me see how quickly I can do that. let's see. Let's go this Bible. Let's see. All right, here we go. Let's see where I think I saw one much later on in the text once it shows how the various the territory was divided up. Actually, I can find it right here, probably faster in my Bible. And then flip over here, put that up on the screen for you. Yeah, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, so where are we? This is in Judges chapter 1. So to doing everything live here. Joshua is the Judges 1. There we go. This one I'm looking for. All right, let me get this up on the screen. Let me make it as big as I can make it so you can see as best you can. All right, let's see. So we're going to share this for you. For those that are just listening to this, I apologize. But if you would like to be able to see this, you're welcome to go to our website, loudoncoc.org, loudoncoc.org. Go to our audio files tab, and then you can click down Daily Bible Readings and click the link to the YouTube channel, which will have this video so you can see what is going on here. Now, I know this is quite small, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to use my cursor here so you can see what's going on. They have come up this side of the Jordan. They have crossed over, and here is Jericho. Here's the first place that they conquered. Now they make their way, continue this way. They run across Ai, and then right down here is the city of Gibeon in the area of the Gibeonites. So what has happened is, as Israel's making their way this direction, these people are just looking like, man, we're in next in line. If they're just following the major cities, we're going to be next. How can we be able to withstand? How can we live whenever they are coming right our direction? And their way of thinking is, well, we're not going to be like the rest of these people, because remember what we see initially in the text is that a number of the peoples have made an alliance to fight against Joshua and Israel. They're not going to go down without a fight. The Gibeonites, however, don't see this as a winning proposition. They believe that the God of Israel, Yahweh, is going to give them over to his people, that the inhabitants of the land are going to be destroyed. So their idea is, well, what we'll do is we're going to try to make peace with them instead. Now, what's very interesting to me is I'm trying to figure out, because they mentioned specifically in verse number 24, that it was clearly communicated to your servants that Yahweh your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you all the land and to destroy all the inhabitants of the land before you. We greatly feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. Did they know the specific provision that allowed for them from Deuteronomy chapter 20 for faraway cities to be offered peace beforehand? Did they know that specifically? I'm very curious. I don't, at least as far as I know, we don't have any background information that says whether or not this had already been done with Israel, whether or not they had already made peace with something, because we have to remember there is so much that went on in the conquest story that just simply is not recorded for us. Not every single detail is given to us. Or else, again, kind of as John says, if every work of Jesus had been recorded, then the world wouldn't be able to contain the story, wouldn't be able to contain the book. And the same thing's true for the conquest. Every single thing that happened in the conquest has not been recorded for us. So I'm wondering if there is some background here that we are not privy to that would help to inform us better about why they decided to do this. Nevertheless, the text very clearly indicates that this was deception. It was very clearly deception. As the people are making their way this direction, they're thinking, okay, we're next, but the only way we're going to be able to survive is if we deceive them. And that's what they do. They act deceptively. They make themselves seem as if they are from a faraway place. But notice that the Israelites initially are very skeptical. Verse 7, the men of Israel replied to, and here specifically it said, the Hivites, they are part of they are from these cities. They're Gibeonites because that's the city name, but I guess the larger group of individuals would mean they were Hivites. They're skeptical, like, well, how do we know that you don't live among us? How do we know that we're only to make a treaty with those far away? How do we know that you don't live among us, that you belong to those that we should not make a treaty with, that we should destroy immediately? But they said to Joshua, we are your servants. Joshua asked them, well, who are you and where do you come from? And they put forth this evidence that says, hey, look, we are from far away, and we've heard everything that Yahweh has done in Egypt. We've heard about what he's done to the Amorite kings, to Sihon and to King Og, and we're thinking we have to survive. The only way we can survive is to submit ourselves to you and to subjugate ourselves to you with a treaty of peace. So look, here's all the evidence that shows you we've come from a long journey. So verse 14, then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but here's the key verse. Here's the key verse in this entire chapter. Or not the key verse, well, it is key verse, but the key sentence. They did not seek Yahweh's decision. They did not seek Yahweh's decision. So Joshua, because he only took everything that he was seeing before him at face value, because of that, he makes this treaty of peace with them, and they swear an oath that they will not destroy them, that they will be able to serve them. So in doing this, the deception is complete, and they are spared. And it's so interesting that all it took was 3 days. 3 days later, they realized, oh no, these people we just made this treaty with, they're like 2 blocks down the road. They're like 4 houses down from us. How do we not know this? Well, they didn't know it because, again, they only took what they saw in front of them at face value. They did not go and investigate through the means of their all-knowing, almighty, all everywhere, all everything God. And that, to me, again, if I'm reading the text as it should be read, that seems to be an issue that we're seeing happen from time to time. It takes me back to chapter 7, whenever it came to Ai, that they saw Ai was not a very strong people, and instead of waiting to get Yahweh's blessing to attack them, they go ahead and attack them, and they get run. Why? Because, well, there's the sin of Achan involved in that story. So this seems to be a bit of a pattern that at times, whenever Yahweh needs to be, whenever they need to communicate with Yahweh to determine his will, they don't do that. And it tends to get them in a great load of trouble. So much so that the people themselves even recognize this was a big mistake. The whole community grumbled against the leaders because of the leaders' poor judgment. They're thinking, listen, we've already seen this story that whenever we don't do things exactly as we're supposed to do them, bad things happen. We're supposed to destroy these guys. We should be wiping Gibeon and Chephirah and Beeroth and Kiriath Jearim. We should be wiping them off the map. Why are we not doing this? We're going to get in trouble. So Joshua and the leaders then have to go and have to explain to them, listen, we made an oath. We made an oath, and we promised them when we did so by the name of Yahweh our God, the unchanging God, the never moving God, that we can't touch them. And so we can't. We cannot. Here's the principle: 2 wrongs are not going to make a right in this situation. It was wrong for us not to investigate Yahweh's decision originally, but now it would be just as wrong for us to break this oath that we made by him. We were cool making a covenant, making the oath by him, but we did not investigate to see his will on this issue. And now we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. So we're going to have to keep our oath. But Gibeonites are not just going to get off. They will become our woodcutters and water carriers within Israel. And so Joshua has this discussion with them. Why did you do this? You know, you're cursed. You will always be slaves. You're going to be woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. They explained why this happened. And the Gibeonites, for their part, apart from the whole deception thing, they seem to carry themselves pretty well in this story. But I think they kind of have to, because they recognize that they are at the complete mercy of Israel and their God. That they really have no room here at all to really bargain or anything. They're just going to have to hope that things work out well for them. That's what they do. They put themselves before Joshua's mercy. And verse 26 says, this is what Joshua did to them. He rescued them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. And on that day, he made them woodcutters and water carriers, as they are today, for the community and for the Lord's altar, for Yahweh's altar at the place where he would choose. So that's how Gibeon ends up becoming a part of Israel's history. And in fact, we see them in 1 Samuel 6 and 7, 2 Samuel 21, 1 Chronicles 16, 1 Kings 3, Nehemiah 7, and all these places, if I'm reading my notes correctly, in all these places, we see them being involved in the story. How did they get there? Well, they got there through deception, through someone not inquiring of Yahweh's will, through making a rash oath, and yet they become a part of the story. And we see the part they'll play as we move forward in the story. So to me, the couple of takeaways here for sure are, number one, things are not always as they seem. Although, I mean, for the people of this time, they had the opportunity to inquire directly from the Lord, from Yahweh and they didn't. That was a mistake. We don't have the opportunity to inquire directly from Yahweh, from our God in heaven, but we do have scripture from which we can learn from. So if we are presented with a situation, we need to make sure we investigate scripture to come to a proper way of handling that situation. Also, again, 2 wrongs don't make right. Just because we messed up the first time doesn't mean we need to mess up again. We just need to do the best. Each decision that we make needs to be the best decision. You know, I'm a sports guy. You guys know that. I think about refereeing and umpiring. I mean, as a soccer referee myself, the thing I have to think about is, okay, when I make a decision, whenever I make a mistake, and I do, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard it from referee or not, but sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes I miss calls. Sometimes it happens in the moment. I don't make the proper judgment. And 30 seconds later, I'm thinking, man, I blew that. I messed that up. But here's the thing. I don't do anything. I don't help myself by then giving a makeup call later on. I don't help myself by that at all. I need to, every single decision, every single call, every single moment of judgment, I need to do the best I can. I don't need to go and make another wrong to compound wrongs in order to somehow make a right. That's a good principle, I think, for us to live by. Just because we make a mistake in the past doesn't mean that we need to make another mistake to try and make up for it. We just need to do the right thing. Yes, we might have messed up previously, but that doesn't mean we need to mess up again and try to make it right. Just do what is right. Strive in every way to do what is right. And what was right here in this situation was for them to stick to their oath. To not break it, and to abide by it. And we see that within this chapter. You know, if you have any questions or comments, if you have any other lessons that you think would be good to take away from this text, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I hope that we'll get to see everybody tonight for our Bible studies at 7 p.m. as we gather for those. And I hope that you'll join in tomorrow as we read together from Joshua chapter 10. Really cool chapter, the day the sun stood still. A pretty neat story here we're going to get to read about tomorrow in Joshua chapter 10. Again, hope you'll be able to tune in for that. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everyone. Take care, and God bless.